The story behind Twilight Saga, Breaking Dawn Part 2's big, ending twist and how it left Twilight fans stunned. Hello dear, welcome to my Allison News channel. On my channel you will find viral update news. Please subscribe my YouTube channel. We'll never forget where we were when this happened. There are some movie-going experiences one never forgets, and the end of Breaking Dawn Part 2 certainly makes the list of one of my core memories gazing up at a big screen, after being a fan of the Twilight books and movies as a teen. I was on a vacation during the Thanksgiving holiday week in the desert, but obviously I had to catch the last Twilight movie with fellow fans on opening night. So, we found a super late screening, because that's all they had in those days, and watched the final film of the Vampire Saga. I swear, my tired self thought I was hallucinating when I watched Carlisle getting beheaded, and the surprise battle scene played out. That wasn't in the book, raced through my mind and my jaw proceeded to be dropped for the rest of the movie's runtime. It's not easy to pull off a mind-blowing plot twist in a movie, but Breaking Dawn Part 2 was able to give Twilight fans like myself something surprising to be stunned by, thanks to the clever ending. And yes, Stephenie Meyer was involved. If you were ever curious about the story behind the movie's ending, sit back and read on. What happens at the end of Breaking Dawn? Before I get into how the ending came about, it's time to refresh your memory about what happened in Breaking Dawn Part 2. After Kristen Stewart's Bella becomes a vampire, the storyline didn't go right to a happy ending. Toward the finish of the Breaking First Light book, the Vulture choose to let the Cullens be after they are preparing for a battle. In the absolute last section of Breaking Sunrise, the joyfully ever later, Edward Cullen shares that the Vulture pioneer, Aro, was scared of Bella and her vampire mind safeguard powers, alongside the way that they were dwarfed by the extra vampires and werewolves collected by the Cullens. Alice gave Aro the reason he expected to escape the battle, per the book's words. The book proposes the Vulture might be back sometime in the future, however the Cullens are certain they can outmaneuver them again at whatever point that occurs. Furthermore, as far as Edward and Bella, they live joyfully ever later, perpetually and always, and for eternity, as Edward mumbles on the last page. In the 2012 establishment Closer, things go down somewhat better. The Cullens have collected a lot of vampires and werewolves to battle the Vulture, yet at initial a battle seems to break out, and there's a lot of losses, including Carlisle's head being cut off by Aro, Dakota Fanning's Jane getting demolished by a werewolf, and Aro being killed off by Edward and Bella. The scene is outlined as the real world, subsequently my shock, before it's uncovered that the scene was basically a dream of Alice Cullen, who can see the future, that she was imparting to Aro on the war zone. Then, the Vulture stand down, and Edward and Bella get their big screen ship off. Stephenie Meyer obviously felt a little uncertain about how the Breaking First Light consummation could work for the film. While I was totally stunned while the Breaking First Light aspect to turn finishing at first worked out, among looking into how the finale works out, I've generally observed the film variant to be a little of a disappointing closure of a 4-book series, from a visual viewpoint in any case. In the event that the Breaking First Light completion had been adjusted beat by beat, it would be a 20-minute succession of vampires, at first talking in a field. It was a 68-page confrontation in the book. Clearly Stephenie Meyer knew this about her completion, as well, and, surprisingly, discussed whether to give the freedoms to highest point to make a film thus. Per screenwriter Melissa Rosenberg to BuzzFeed, can you imagine if the Twilight Saga had just ended with Eclipse? The fans needed an ending, and luckily Rosenberg met with Meyer about a new ending. In the same interview, Melissa Rosenberg shared that she and Stephenie Meyer both came up with the twist ending together. Here's how it came about. Isn't it neat that Stephenie Meyer was so involved? I really love when changes made in movie versions of books get the go-ahead by authors, because sometimes even they have ways they want to update the source material, especially for the film medium. Director Bill Condon said this to Vulture about the alterations. It's a great point, because Stephenie Meyer wasn't really the writing battles type, but from a movie standpoint, it was awesome to see vampires and werewolves in action. Once Meyer, Rosenberg and Condon were all on board for the twist, it was time to craft the scene. Check out what the director also told Vulture about how it all started for him.